What's the most paranormal thing that has ever happened to you? First night in my first apartment. Didn't have a bed, so I slept on the couch in the living room. Had a nightmare that someone with a knife was going down the hallway. Just as they got to the living room door, I woke up. I jumped in my car, spent one more night at my parents'. 2 months later, my roommate falls asleep on the same couch. Next morning he tells me about a dream he had, about a guy coming down the hall with a knife. Just as he got to the door, my roommate woke up. Few months later, a friend asks if he can crash for a night. Sure, he can sleep on the couch. Next morning he says he had a weird dream. I said, "Guy coming down the hall with a knife?" My roommate added, "You woke up just as he got to the door?" Dude went palest shade of white I ever seen. I used to work at a haunted hotel at the front desk. There was a room behind the front desk where you could sit when it was late, and no one was in the lobby. There was a TV with the security cameras, including one on the front desk, so you could see if anyone was out there. You could see the whole front desk, including the classic bell that people ring for service. A co-worker and I were sitting in the back room, no one up front, and the bell rang. No one was out there. Over the next hour the bell rang 6 or 7 times, but only when we were in the back. I don't believe in ghosts, but darn. This was a nice 4-diamond-old hotel that had huge ballrooms and dining rooms, that I had to walk through late at night when I was alone. When I worked overnights after that as the only employee in the hotel, I would get freaked out, but never really saw anything else supernatural. A lady's voice coming from my closet. The door was slightly opened and I heard the voice say, "Help me. I see you through the crack." I was scared like hell, but I also was curious and wanting to help, so I opened the door and no one was there. I'll never forget this, it still gives me goosebumps talking about it. I worked nights at a hotel. I was setting up coffee one morning a few years back and I see someone very tall in the kitchen. We make eye contact. Dude's wearing an olive green jacket and a pair of jeans. After a second he lifts his legs at the knees and floats out the door. Now if I were just seeing things I'd have panicked. I've hallucinated from exhaustion and the stuff I see scares me. This was there. This was real. It must be a guest or something in an employee area. This has happened a couple times. I take off running to catch this guy and tell him he is not permitted back there. No one is there because of course not. The back is empty. I am alone. I was still convinced for several minutes that this guy was just hiding from me, and he'd have to come out and I'd be able to talk to him. Almost a full 5 minutes elapsed before I realized I was literally chasing a ghost. I'm convinced the house I lived in during my freshman year of college was haunted. I also swear that all of this is 100% true. I don't talk about it because it sounds ridiculous, but it happened, and I can't explain it. The house was 120 years old. My room had a door to the attic that I kept locked. I had 4 other roommates, who all swear they weren't messing with me. I was laying in bed one day, and I heard a super loud crash behind the door of the attic. I grabbed my big male roommate, and we opened the door together. At the bottom of the steps, there were 6 awkwardly shallow steps, leading up to a bunch of that pink foam stuff in your typical attic. There was an old painting of some lady. We were creeped the hell out. Nobody had ever seen the painting before, let alone gone into the creepy attic. We put the painting in the corner of the attic, where it could not fall, and didn't think about it again. A few months later, I heard the same crash. I figured I dreamed or imagined it. Again, I opened the door and found the painting sitting there. This time I moved the painting into the basement. There were some shelves, and I just threw it in the back of the top shelf. A couple more months went by. Yet again, late one night I heard the crash from behind the attic door. I thought to myself, no effing way. Grabbed my roommate again and opened the door. There it effing was. That goddarn painting was sitting at the bottom of the steps again. I don't understand how. I kept the door to my room locked, as well as the door to the attic. My roommates couldn't have gotten in there to play a prank. I truly don't understand it. After the 3rd time we took the painting out to the fire pit and burned it. Thankfully all the creepy stuff stopped there. I moved the hell out of that house as soon as the lease was up. I can't explain what happened. I just know it was creepy as hell and you could not convince me to go back there. I was once in a class around 4th grade. This girl in a white dress appeared somewhere in the classroom. I observed paralyzed and she disappeared. I thought it was my imagination, but the guy next to me asked me, "Did you see that too?" Still freaks me out. When my son was about 3.5 years old, we were driving home at night with him and his 7-year-old brother in the back seat. As we approached an area of the road across from my older son's former babysitter's house, my younger son clearly blurted out the name Ashley. Ashley was the name of the babysitter and she had died the year before in a car accident. My younger son had never met her and neither son knew that she lived nearby, because she always drove to our home to babysit. When I asked my younger son what he said, he repeated the name Ashley, and when I asked him why he said that, he said Raven told him to. Raven was his favorite stuffed animal. My wife and I were stunned and cannot explain what happened. Long story short, multiple people who are not friends with one another have been in my house and seen a woman in a blue dress and then told me about it later. I don't tell anyone else about it, not even my husband, because it doesn't bother anything. No big deal, right? Anywho, I myself have seen her twice. The first time I woke up in the middle of the night and saw her leaning over the baby's crib. I immediately sat up and she just faded away. I felt crazy because I didn't know anyone else had seen her at the time. The next day I went to Walmart and some lady walks by me and says, "She likes the baby." I stop and ask what she said and she says, "The woman, in your house. She likes the baby." Low-key peed my pants and ran home. When I was 6 or 7, I was going to the bathroom, not bothering to close the door because no one else was home. My parents' room was directly across a narrow hallway from the bathroom, with their door being pretty close to being entirely open, with only clothes keeping it pushed slightly outward. From where I was I could see the foot of my parents' bed, the wall on the left side of their bed, and the wall which the door was against, being nearly fully open, if that makes sense. Sitting silently I see a black dress with no figure inside rise up from behind the left side of my parents' bed, proceed to float out to the front of the foot of the bed, appearing to float directly towards me, and float behind my parents' bedroom door. Completely silent, no body, no legs, feet. Nothing. Just a black dress. It floated not slowly but not too quickly, like it didn't even know I was there and was just casually floating through the house. I was freaked as hell. I finished my business, and quickly jumped across the hall and slammed the door the other way, screaming out of fear and an attempt at being threatening. But nothing was there besides my mom's robes and pajamas. Since then I was sure to close the door every time I went to the bathroom. And only recently have I begun going with the door open if no one else is home. And nearly every time I do, the thought of that goes through my head. I have been saved from death 8 times by a spirit guy wearing a bowler hat. Each time has been different, but I am not the only one who has seen him. He has woken up my father and told him to check the garage. My father found me seizing and choking. I fell asleep while driving. He turned the car sharply before we went off into a river. He also shook me awake, before my 2 friends in the back seat, both asked who I had picked up. Those are the 2 times others have seen him. When I was a little kid, my father used to take me and my 2 sisters to a railway museum in my city. We loved it, but he suddenly stopped taking us there. Years later I was told why. Every single time that my father took photos of us there, a strange face appeared above my little sister, and so he got scared and never brought us there again. I actually have a bunch of weird paranormal stories, but there's one that really creeps me out more than the others. I was about 13, sleeping over at my friend's mom's house. She lived in a duplex that the family lived in for 40+ years. She had a couple of kids, cousins, over that weekend, so I didn't think of it when I saw a small blonde boy in a striped t-shirt come around the corner and peek into the room we were hanging out in. My friend asked me who I waved to, and I just said, "One of your little cousins." The next morning we went to the other side of the duplex where her grandparents lived, and I saw a picture on the wall of the little blonde boy with the striped t-shirt on, with "In memory of" written on it. I got a chill and asked her who it was, and she said, "Oh, that's my uncle. He got hit by a car right outside the house when he was 7, in the 80s. Why? I told her that's the exact little boy I saw outside your room last night, and she just responded with, "Yeah, he likes to say hi to the family sometimes." This happened when I was 17. It is part of our culture to celebrate the 4th night of burial. My auntie who was close to us had passed away, and during the fourth night celebration, my sibling's baby nephew and I didn't attend, so we stayed home. My mom had gone to the gathering but returned home late. As soon as she walked into the house, my baby nephew started crying. When he finally settled down and fallen back to sleep, I started feeling uneasy. I had this feeling I was being watched and got really uncomfortable, so I changed the direction I was lying and turned to face the door. The door to the room was left open, and guess who I saw standing there and staring directly at me? My aunt, who we had buried 4 days earlier. She was not smiling at all. I'm a big skeptic about this stuff, but I have one incident that I cannot explain. Normal weekday night, lying on the sofa watching whatever with the dog next to me. Next thing, my DVD player kind of slides forward and tips over the edge of the shelf it was on. It was against the wall. It was a flat surface with no slope or leverage. I jumped up thinking, what the hell? But soon forget and carry on watching TV. Maybe 5 to 10 minutes later, the dog jumps down off the sofa and goes to the corner of the room and starts staring at the ceiling just above the DVD player. He is a very responsive dog normally, and I only have to say his name once and he comes running. For the next 20 to 30 minutes he would not even turn around to look at me. I called his name over and over and nothing from him at all. He was in a strange trance the whole time, and even me patting him or getting a treat wouldn't snap him out of it. I started freaking out and actually filmed him for the last few minutes before he snapped out of it and came back to the sofa. I thought it may have been some insect's nest or a spider or something, but any dog owner/expert can only guess what it was. It will bother me until the end of time. When I was growing up, my mom had a wicker/straw angel decoration. It was as big as I was as an 8-year-old kid, and for some reason I always hated it. It was creepy, yes, but I got a weird/bad feeling in the pit of my stomach every time I looked at it or had to pass by it, and I always felt like it was watching me almost. When my parents divorced, my mom of course brought the angel with her when she moved out, and in our new house, there was a wall in the living room that had a rectangle cut out so you could see through it, and my mom hung the thing up in there, so it was kinda just hanging in free space. With it being there, I swear to God it would just move on its own. There were no vents or anything near it to move it if the furnace came on. One time I was sitting on the stairs, putting socks on or whatever. The stairs were across from the cutout wall with a set of 2 more stairs going down between them, and I would see the angel, originally being still, just slowly turn around all the way to face me and then stop, becoming absolutely still. It freaked me the hell out. It happened on multiple occasions, but I don't know how to explain why or how it happened. I mean, it could have been an overactive imagination as a kid, but the turning around and just stopping is really weird. Call bullcrap if you want, but I know what I saw. One time when I was 9, I tripped down the stairs and was about to hit my head on the ground head first, but then I was just standing at the bottom of the steps like I walked down. Still confused to this day. Me and my girlfriend at the time were living together in an apartment complex that was from early 1900s. I remember dreaming of a black figure dragging me from my bed, and I wake up to my girlfriend screaming, "She will not let me go, she will not let me go." And I have my arms around her like we are cuddling, and we both wake up at the other end of the room, facing opposite way of the way our bed was. We were dragged in a complete 180 from bed to other side of room. Next day I tell my neighbor upstairs, and he says he had a dream of a black figure throw him off balcony, and then leave his room and go down hallway to where we were. Craziest thing ever happened to me. When I was around 11 years old, I heard scissors snipping coming from my parents' bathroom, which was next to my bedroom. This happened every night from around 1 to around 1:30 every night. After about 3 months it stopped, and the dream I had that night was about a witch-looking thing dragging its nails against my back, and the next morning my back was covered in scabs that looked like someone scratching my back.